This happened last month while I was home alone. I'd just moved into a suburban house and loved the peace of working late into the night. I wasn't new to solitude, so I felt comfortable. The air was still, and everything around me felt welcoming. That's why I was startled when I heard faint footsteps above me in the attic. At first I thought it was my imagination. The old house had its quirks, right? Maybe it was just some creaks from the wood settling. My heart raced, but I brushed it off, convincing myself it was only the pipes. But the footsteps grew louder over the next few nights. They went from soft taps to a hurried scurrying. I tried to ignore it, hoping it was all in my head. Maybe old houses just made funny noises? The third night, I walked past the attic door. It was ajar. I froze. A twist of cold gripped my stomach. I felt uneasy, but didn't dare go upstairs. I thought it was better to focus on my work. One evening, I found something unexpected. A small teddy bear sat in my living room. It looked old and worn out, covered in dust. I blinked at it, confused. I wasn't sure how it got there. My heart sank as I realized it shouldn't be in my home. I started to question myself. Was I really imagining things? I thought about how I had been working late and told myself to relax. But late at night, the footsteps continued. They developed a rhythm, echoing in the silence. I thought I could hear whispers too, but I couldn't make out any words. The wind must have been playing tricks on me. Still, my heart sped up every time I closed my eyes. I left lights on, convincing myself they would keep me safe. But a weight settled in the air. I felt like someone was watching me. One night, as I waited for sleep to come, I heard the scurrying again. This time it felt closer. My heart raced, and I froze in my chair. I thought maybe I should call a friend, but I didn't want to sound crazy. Then it happened. I was sitting in my kitchen as the sunlight faded. I heard a soft knock from the attic. I got up, my hands trembling. I slowly pushed the door open, and it creaked as it revealed darkness. My heart was pounding as I called out, "Is anyone there?" Silence answered me. Then I heard it. A soft, deliberate voice whispered, "Why are you here?" I spun around, panic flooding my chest. But I was alone. The kitchen felt colder, and all I could do was stand there, heart thumping wildly. I never should have ignored the signs. Now I felt trapped in a place I didn't belong. The next day, I woke up feeling restless. I hadn't slept well, and the events from the night before replayed in my mind. I rubbed my eyes and tried to shake off the dread that clung to me like a heavy blanket. I needed to get out of the house. I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through the neighborhood, the sun felt reassuring against my skin. The houses here were all similar. 2 stories, neat lawns, friendly faces. No one knew what was lurking in my attic, though. I thought about the teddy bear. Who had left it? What did it mean? I felt compelled to find answers. I approached my neighbor's home, a cheerful woman named Linda I had met briefly during my move. I knocked on her door, feeling a mix of nerves and curiosity. When she opened the door, her smile was warm, but I could see something in her eyes change when I mentioned my house. "Oh, that one," she said, her tone shifting. "It's seen better days. It used to belong to a family who moved away a while ago. Strange things happened there, or so they say." I shivered at her words, recalling the footsteps echoing in my head. "Strange things? What do you mean?" She hesitated. "Just noises, memories, you know? You should be careful." Her eyes darted away, and I sensed more behind her caution. But before I could ask further, she excused herself, leaving me with my questions and a knot in my stomach. I returned home, my mind racing. Before going upstairs, I grabbed a flashlight. I couldn't ignore the attic any longer. I had to find out what was up there, even if it scared me. Steeling my resolve, I climbed the creaky stairs to the attic door. With a deep breath, I pushed it open. The darkness swallowed me. I turned on the flashlight, its beam slicing through the gloom. Dust motes danced in the light, and the air tasted stale. I scanned the room, heart pounding. something caught my eye. A small trunk sat in the corner, half hidden beneath a torn blanket. I hesitated, but my curiosity overtook my fear. I approached it, trying to calm my racing heart. As I knelt down to lift the lid, the feeling of being watched wrapped around me again. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the other side of the attic. I jumped back, my breath hitching. A shadow flickered in the corner, just beyond the light of my beam. That's when I saw it, I thought, feeling frozen in place. I squinted, trying to find the source. The air felt thick and heavy, as if time itself paused. Then it moved again, a dark figure darting just out of view. I stumbled back, heart racing. I should have left it alone. I should have listened. But now I was trapped, caught between the unknown and the growing need to know. The footsteps had escalated, and I realized the truth. Something from the attic had come to find me. The seconds felt like hours as I stood frozen in place, my mind racing. Was it just my imagination playing tricks on me, or was something really there? The shadow inched closer, teasing the edges of the light, and my breath quickened. I needed to know, but fear anchored my feet to the floor. "Hello?" I called, my voice cracking slightly. No answer came, just the silence of the attic pressing down on me. Tentatively, I moved the flashlight beam, hoping to illuminate whatever lurked in the darkness. As the light swept past the corners, I caught a glimpse of an old rocking chair slowly swaying back and forth. My heart dropped. It hadn't been moving when I entered. Cold dread washed over me. I turned back to the trunk, thinking, perhaps if I opened it, I'd find something to anchor my unraveling reality. With both hands trembling, I grasped the lid and pulled. It creaked loudly, sounding like a mournful wail in the quiet attic. Inside, I spotted a collection of dusty letters tied with a frayed ribbon. On top, a small, worn-out diary fell open as I shifted the letters, its pages brittle and yellowed. Curiosity drowned my fear momentarily as I picked it up, flipping through the fragile pages. August 15th, 1985, it began. Today, Emily came to play. We laughed in the backyard, but I sometimes hear whispers in the walls at night. My heart raced further as I scanned more entries, each revealing strange happenings, a little girl named Emily, and her invisible friend. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The footsteps echoed through the visitations, each line drip-fed a sense of terror and familiarity. I stopped suddenly. I had heard about Emily from Linda. What had happened to her? Just then, a loud crash resonated from behind me. I whipped around, flashlight beam shaking as it landed on the empty corner. My skin prickled. It was all too familiar. Then I heard it, soft, unmistakable giggles. They danced around me, echoing off the attic walls. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting the urge to scream. This couldn't be happening. When I opened them again, the attic was no longer the somber space I first entered. Shadows blurred together, shapes twisting in my peripheral vision. The giggles grew louder, merging with the sounds of running feet. I picked up the diary, stuffing it under my arm. I needed to escape. I stumbled toward the attic door, the laughter enveloping me as I wrestled with the handle. It felt like an eternity, but finally, it creaked open. I dashed down the stairs, the sound of footsteps following me. Relentless. At the bottom, I turned to look back, breathless. I froze, struck by the sight of a small figure standing at the threshold to the attic, peering down at me with cold, hollow eyes. That's when I saw it. The truth had found me. I stumbled back, my breath hitching. The attic door swung shut behind the figure with a soft thud, isolating me in the dim hallway. What had I just seen? The small face of a child, the hollow eyes that bore into my soul. This wasn't a nightmare. It was real, and I felt the weight of dread settle heavily on my chest. My instincts screamed at me to get out. I turned and ran down the hallway, heart racing. I burst through the front door, the cool night air hitting me like a wave. The familiar sounds of my neighborhood came crashing back, drowning out the giggles that lingered in my mind. I paced the porch, fighting against the urge to cry. What did I just uncover? As I tried to make sense of it all, Linda's warnings echoed in my head. Stay away from that old house. Yet here I was, face to face with what had likely been lurking there. The diary felt like a lead weight under my arm, and I could almost hear its pages whispering secrets I wasn't ready to know. Suddenly, I heard it again. The giggles, this time muffled yet unmistakable, floating through the night. I turned sharply, scanning the street, but no one was there. I glanced back at the house, half expecting to see the child standing at the window, but the darkness offered no clarity. Get a grip, I muttered to myself. Determined to learn the truth, I headed to Linda's house. Her front porch light was on, and I knocked impatiently, my heart thudding in my chest. Minutes felt like hours, but finally she opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she took in my pale face. Emily, I gasped, knowing I needed her to understand. I found something in the attic. You have to tell me what you know. What happened to her? Linda frowned, then stepped aside, allowing me in. You shouldn't have gone up there. The stories, they aren't just stories, you know. I nodded, gripping the diary. I felt her. I heard her. Linda hesitated before pulling me further into the living room, lowering her voice. Emily was a sweet girl, but she disappeared. They said she had an imaginary friend, but her parents believed it was something more, something sinister. We never spoke of her again after the accident. My stomach twisted. Accident? She looked away, avoiding my gaze. It's better if you don't know. Please, you need to leave this alone. It's not safe. But I couldn't back down. Why did you warn me? Why is it not safe? Suddenly, a sharp knock came from the back door, echoing in the silence. My heart dropped. We both stared toward the sound as it grew louder, insistent. The door rattled. Then everything went dark. The darkness was thick and suffocating. I could hardly see anything beyond the shadows. A low, anxious whisper escaped my lips. Linda? I reached out, hoping to find her, but my fingers met only the chill of empty air. Then the knocking returned. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, resonating through the house like a heartbeat. I felt frozen, stuck in the oppressive silence, battling the fear that wrapped around me. I wanted to scream, to break the spell of quiet, but no sound came. Emily, we need to... Linda's voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a noise I couldn't identify. It was a soft thud, followed by a shuffling sound from the direction of the back door. My stomach twisted again. Linda? I called cautiously. My voice trembled as I moved toward the faint outline of a doorway, desperate to reconnect with her. Are you okay? There was no answer, just the continuous rattle of the doorknob. The knocking turned into a steady rhythm, rhythmic and deliberate, filling the empty spaces of my mind with dread. I knew I should retreat, but curiosity anchored me in place. Without thinking, I edged toward the back of the house, heart pounding. The shadows danced around me, becoming more menacing with each step. I found a flashlight on a nearby table, flicked it on, and the beam sliced through the darkness. I hoped it would somehow illuminate the truth lurking just beyond my reach. Each breath seemed louder in the stillness. I came to the back door, its surface marred with age, and pressed my fingers against the cold wood, feeling the vibrations of the other side. Before I could gather my courage to open it, the sound ceased. A strange stillness followed, oppressive and heavy. I strained to hear something, anything, but the world outside felt eerily quiet. I felt goosebumps erupt along my arms. Linda, where are you? I whispered, pushing the door frame gently. The door creaked inward, and I hesitated just long enough to consider my next move. But then, a soft sigh escaped the darkness, followed by a familiar giggle, the kind that should never belong to a child standing behind a closed door. The flashlight flickered, casting shadows that played tricks on my eyes. I swallowed hard, the effort making my throat raw. I peered out into the night, with the light flickering, and, for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a small figure dart across the yard, too quick to be certain. I pulled the door open wider and stepped outside, acutely aware of the chill sliding down my spine. "I'm not scared of you," I shouted, my voice stronger than I felt. Then, I saw it again. The child stood at the edge of the yard, gazing back with those hollow eyes. My heart raced anew, and I took a step back. But before I could retreat, I stumbled over something, a loose brick hidden in the dark. I fell hard, the flashlight clattering away from me. That's when I realized what I had tripped over. My breath caught in my throat. It was a small, worn-out doll, its button eyes cracked and faded. I looked up, feeling terror wash over me again as I locked eyes with the child. She smiled while the darkness behind her loomed closer, stealing the warmth of the night. I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding, still fixated on the child in the yard. But she was gone. The darkness had swallowed her whole, leaving me with only the dread that clung to me like a second skin. I blinked, trying to will away the fear, but I could still see the faint outline of her smile, too wide, too unsettling. I bent down to pick up the doll, feeling the rough fabric beneath my fingers. Its face held a quiet agony, as though it knew something I didn't. I shoved it into the pocket of my jacket, desperate for some small semblance of control. "Linda," I called again, my voice cracking. This time I felt more hysterical than brave. What was I doing out here alone? The shadows around me shifted, and the wind whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves like laughter. I scanned the yard, peering into every corner. "I'm coming to find you," I shouted, though I couldn't shake the feeling that I might be walking into a trap. Taking tentative steps, I retraced my way toward the door, eyes darting in every direction. I felt eyes on me, but couldn't tell from where. As I reached the porch, I froze again. Inside, I thought I heard a soft voice, almost like Linda's, but distorted and twisted. It sounded like my name mixed with a hush. "Emily," it beckoned. The voice drew me in, making my knees weaken. "Linda," I whispered back, reasoning that it wouldn't help to sound timid. I pushed the door open wider and stepped back inside, holding the beam of the flashlight ahead of me like a shield. The house was still, too still. The knocking had resumed, but it was softer now, almost like a child's gentle tapping. I followed the sound, driven by a need I couldn't fully understand. It led me toward the living room, the dim light casting long shadows on the walls. Then, I saw them. A series of drawings scattered across the floor, colorful crayon sketches of stick figures and bizarre creatures, some with long limbs and wide eyes. My breath quickened as I identified one figure. It looked like the child I had seen outside, but this one had been drawn in vivid purple. I stepped closer, scanning the childish handwriting scratching across the paper. "Emmy's friend," it read. My stomach twisted. I felt nauseous, as if I had stepped into a nightmare. Who was Emmy? Did Linda know this child? Had she brought her here? A sudden bang came from the hallway, the sound of something heavy being dropped. My mind raced. I had to check it out. Swallowing hard, I approached the hallway where the sound had echoed, feeling a cold breeze rush past me. Passing the living room, I flicked off the flashlight to save its dwindling battery. The darkness swallowed me whole, but I pressed on. Just before I reached the hallway, I noticed a reflection bouncing off the wall, an eerie glow that seemed to dance where I was headed. The glow pulsed again, and dread seeped into my veins. Something was waiting for me just beyond the threshold. "Linda?" I called again, voice shaking. When I stepped forward to investigate, the temperature dropped sharply. That's when I saw it, a doorway I had never noticed before. It stood slightly ajar, light spilling out from within, beckoning me closer. I hesitated at the doorway, my mind racing. Should I really go in? That instinctual part of me wanted to run, to escape whatever lay beyond. But I couldn't abandon hope that Linda was in there, or at least that I might find answers about that child. With a deep breath, I pushed the door wider and stepped inside. The bright light that spilled from the room was jarring after the darkness I had navigated. The space appeared to be a small bedroom, one I had never seen before. Soft pastel wallpaper adorned the walls, and a bed with ruffled sheets dominated the room. But it was the table that caught my attention. A collection of toys and dolls, all neatly arranged, as if waiting for a game to begin. Each doll wore a hauntingly familiar expression. I frowned, recognizing that twisted smile I had seen before on the child outside. The same one, now staring up at me from the toys as if mocking my intrusion. I walked further inside, my heart hammering in my chest. On the dresser, a framed picture drew my eyes. I picked it up and felt a chill run down my spine. It was a photograph of Linda, but she was younger, sitting next to a girl I didn't recognize. They were both beaming, arms around each other as if they had shared some wonderful secret. Below it, a crumpled piece of paper slipped out from underneath the frame. I unfolded it, a rush of apprehension flooding me. "Help her. She needs you," it read in shaky handwriting. Who needed help? What had happened to Linda and this girl? Questions swirled in my mind, but before I could process them, the sound of soft, pad-like footsteps echoed from the hallway behind me. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. The footsteps grew louder, closer. I turned quickly to face the door, my heart racing. Should I hide? Should I run? Panic surged through me, clouding my thoughts. "Linda!" I called out again, my voice shaky but desperate. No response came, only the faint sound of giggling as if drifted through the hallway. It felt wrong, taunting, like some cruel game was afoot. Suddenly, the glow from the bedroom flickered. I turned back to the room, and to my shock, a shadow flickered across the wall. A dark silhouette, unnaturally elongated. I stumbled backward, crashing into the table, sending a few dolls tumbling to the floor with a soft thud. "Get out!" a voice shouted from somewhere in the hallway. It wasn't Linda. It was a child's voice, high-pitched and frantic. Before I could process what was happening, the shadow moved, darting into the room with terrifying speed. My heart lurched, and I knew I had to decide fast. I had to either confront whatever was in the hallway or flee. But the door behind me was now slowly creaking shut, enveloping me in a heavy, smothering darkness. I took a deep breath, pushed through the panic, and stepped toward the shadow, resolve hardening in my chest. Whatever it was, I had to face it. But as I moved closer, a thought pierced through the dread. I might not come out of this alive. I took a step forward, steadying my breath as my pulse quickened. The shadow froze for a moment, and I caught a glimpse of something shifting behind it, small and dark, like a child crouching low. "Linda?" I called out again, my voice barely above a whisper. The silhouette didn't respond. Instead, it lunged forward, revealing a smaller figure behind it. My instincts kicked in, and I braced myself for whatever was about to happen. The light flickered again, momentarily illuminating the room. In that brief moment, clarity dawned. It was a girl, much like the one in the photo, but her face twisted in confusion and fear. She wasn't here to harm me. "Help her!" she screamed, pointing past me as tears flowed down her cheeks. "Please, she needs you." Before I could react or understand, the room was filled with a cacophony of angry whispers, chilling my bones. Words jumbled together, echoing off the walls in a language I couldn't comprehend. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a thunderous crash, and the flickering light extinguished, leaving me to grapple with the darkness. I felt my back hit a wall. How had I ended up here? I cursed the fear that clutched at me, threatening to keep me rooted in place. "I'm not leaving you," I shouted, desperate to calm the spirits, if that was indeed what they were. I squinted into the blackness, searching for the girl, for any trace of Linda. A soft sob broke the silence. It came from the corner of the room, and I carefully moved toward it. The air felt heavy, thick with sorrow. "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. Who needs help? I'm sorry, the girl stammered. They want her. You have to stop them. She curled into herself, eyes wide, as if I were the last beacon of hope. That's when I saw it, the towering shadow creeping along the wall. It wasn't just moving, it morphed, taking on grotesque shapes as it advanced. My heart raced, each beat pounding in my ears. The girl was terrifyingly right. This thing wanted to take something from me, and it was getting closer. With sudden clarity, I turned back to the bed where the girls had once played. The crumpled paper flashed in my mind. Help her. She needs you. Could it be that simple? Was that the key? I could feel panic bubbling inside me, urging me to flee. But a dawning realization pierced through my terror. Linda might not just be in trouble. She could be trapped here with the girl. Show me, I shouted, my voice echoing in the dark. The girl nodded and pointed to a corner of the room where the wall met a shadowy expanse, a doorway, both apparent and illusion. Before I could catch my breath, I sprinted towards it, adrenaline propelling me forward. But just as I reached for the corner, the shadow lunged. I barely ducked out of the way, my heart in my throat. The darkness buzzed with angry energy. I felt the girl tug at my arm. You have to hurry. The words urged me onward, pushing me to confront my fears. All at once, the reality of what I dove into clicked. This was my fight now, a desperate race against an unseen enemy. I dove toward the corner, but before I could reach it, everything went dark. I opened my eyes, but the darkness surrounded me thick as fog. I tried to move, yet my body felt heavy, trapped in some unseen grip. Panic tightened like a vice around my chest, and I fought against it. I'm here, I shouted, feeling an urgent need to be heard. Where are you? A faint response echoed through the dark, a soft, desperate whisper. Not here. Stronger now. The girl's voice came from somewhere nearby, but I couldn't tell if it was to my left or behind me. Stronger? Who's stronger? I called out, but my words felt swallowed by the shadows. I reached out a hand, desperately hoping to touch something, anything. My fingers brushed against something cool and smooth. A nightstand, maybe? I fumbled and knocked over a glass, the sound piercing through the silence like a shriek. Listen! The girl's voice cut through my frantic search, breaking my thought process. They're coming for her. The urgency in her tone froze me momentarily, like a deer caught in headlights. I didn't know what was coming, but I sensed a shift in the air. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing from the direction of the door. They were real, or as real as anything could be in this suffocating darkness. I turned towards the sound, my heart pounding in sync with each footfall that drew nearer. Who's there? I shouted, desperation lacing my voice. The footsteps stopped, a thin tension hanging in the air. In that heartbeat, I wondered if I was the target of something unspeakable. They started again, but this time the sound was accompanied by a low growl. My skin prickled. What was lurking out there? I gritted my teeth, ready to bolt, but I didn't want to abandon the girl or Linda. They needed me. Stay with me, I begged, hoping the girl could provide some guidance amid the chaos. We have to stay together. Hold on, she urged, her words a whisper of wind at my ear. It helps. I felt her presence growing stronger beside me, a flicker of warmth against the cold shadows. A sudden gust of air swept through the room. It sent chills racing down my spine, teasing at my skin while stirring the darkness. I heard a door creak open somewhere close by. Was it the front door, or merely a trick of the wind? Then the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room in harsh, fluorescent brightness. My heart dropped as I took in the scene. The shadowy figure loomed in the doorway, its form distorted and fluid, shifting like it wasn't entirely there. Oh no, I heard the girl gasp beside me. You have to get to her, now! Instinct kicked in. I dove forward, ignoring the fear that latched onto me like a parasite. I couldn't let this thing take her. I sprinted toward the distorted figure, ready to confront whatever horror awaited me. But with a thunderous crash, the figure lunged forward and everything went black again. I gasped as light filled my vision once more, abrupt and blinding. I couldn't shake the disorientation as I staggered to my feet. The air around me was dense, carrying a faint coldness that screamed familiarity. I blinked rapidly, trying to piece together my whereabouts. Had I escaped the shadows? I found myself back in my initial living room, the comforting hum of distant city life drifting through the open window. Confusion washed over me. I blinked again, willing understanding to settle into my mind. Where was Linda? Where was the girl? "Hello?" I called, the sound bouncing off the walls that suddenly felt less claustrophobic. My voice echoed but faded quickly, leaving an unnerving silence in its wake. The bright sunlight flooding in contrasted sharply with the chilling darkness I had just escaped. I hesitated before moving toward the kitchen, knowing I had to check for Linda. Sensing that something wasn't right made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. As I entered, my heart sank. The kitchen was undisturbed. The wooden table was set properly, untouched and glimmering like a false facade of domestic tranquility. I saw no signs of struggle, no echoes of the chaos that had unfolded. It felt wrong, almost like a cruel joke. I scanned the corners, half expecting something, someone, to materialize, but nothing stirred. All I could hear was the persistent ticking of the old clock on the wall, a stark reminder that time continued to march on, indifferent to my fear. "Linda!" I cried out again, desperation choking my voice. No reply came, only the low hum of the world outside. I turned back, feeling as if I were being watched, every breath heavy and scrutinized. Despite the serene atmosphere, unease gripped my chest, and I felt the familiar weight of dread settle, an echo of my experiences in the darkness. Suddenly, I remembered the doll. My hand flew to my pocket, fingers brushing against its worn fabric. I pulled it out, clutching it tightly. "What do you want?" I whispered to it, as if it could provide answers. The doll gave me no reply, lying lifeless in my palm. My pulse quickened again. What had it meant? Had it been a messenger? Instinctively, I felt drawn toward the attic. I needed to confront whatever was left unresolved. I climbed the stairs, each step echoing my heartbeat, feeling the familiar pull of the attic door. My fingers trembled as I pushed it open. The space was as I remembered, dusty and eerily quiet. A sense of foreboding loomed, thick and heavy in the air. I stepped inside, flashlight in hand, illuminating familiar corners. My heart raced as I traced the narrow beams of light over the old rocking chair. It was still and quiet, though somehow menacing in its silence. But just then, my flashlight caught sight of the trunk, still half obscured by the old blanket. My resolve hardened. I had to see what lay inside. With a shaky inhale, I approached and opened it again. The letters were still there, untouched. With trembling fingers, I pulled out the diary, the pages still crisp as if waiting for me to uncover its secrets. I flipped to a random page, eager for answers. September 20th, 1986, it read. "Today we played with Emily's friend. The whispers are louder now, and we mustn't tell anyone." My heart pounded as I read those words, an echo of my earlier discoveries. The passages painted a picture of a child's imagination spiraling into something dark and sinister. Once innocent play had turned into something much darker. As I sat there, absorbing the truth, the sound of soft giggling floated from the corner of the attic. My blood ran cold. The shadows began to shift around me, pulling tighter. "Stop! Leave me alone!" I shouted, searching the corners for the source of the laughter that felt so hauntingly familiar. But the attic was silent again. I felt a chill slice through me. Was it real, or just my mind trying to replay the night's horror? The doll in my hand felt like a weight tied to the ongoing mystery. In that moment, I understood. my questions wouldn't all be answered. Emily's echoes lingered in the air like a haunting refrain, unresolved and alive within the walls. As I left the attic and closed the door behind me, I felt a mixture of relief and dread. I stepped outside into the warm sunlight again, feeling a fragile sense of normalcy wash over me. I could escape the house, but I couldn't escape the echoes of the unknown. This place would never feel completely safe, but I wouldn't let it take me down. I had to confront my own shadows. And as I walked away, I knew some part of me would always wonder about Emily, the whispers, and the truth that still lurked beneath the surface. Sometimes I catch myself glancing back toward that house, wondering if I'll ever truly escape her presence, or if I even want to.